Hey all, Tony Bing here. Hello and welcome back to another in-depth review for Marvel Strike Force. Now, today we will be looking at the latest Wakandan character to be added to the game, as of course Killmonger. Now, we have various different sections in this video that hopefully by the end of them will let you know if he's worth investing in. So we have the general overview where we look at his tags and how you unlock them. We then have his stats. Next up it's the abilities. We have the synergies following on from that, and then we finish off by seeing where he places in the tier list. But we'll start off with the general overview. Killmonger then is a blaster class. Now if we look at his description, a lethal assassin who drains health from enemies and eliminates weakened targets, and the health drain is actually a really quite important part of his kit. Now when we look at his tags, it's villain, global, skill, blaster, Wakanda and also mercenary. The most important one there will be the Wakanda tag when we get more characters coming out, specifically Shuri, who's a legendary character that will tie them all together. The blaster tag can be relevant as well because you've got the catalyst challenge, which is really difficult, so he can actually help you work your way through that. In regards to unlocking him at the moment, it's just the blitzes we'll have for him, and in time he'll most likely filter his way through the story mode or premium orbs as well, same as other characters. But that's the general overview. Let's now have a look at his stats. When we look at his base stats here, they do look a little bit underwhelming, but when you add everything that's included in his kit in there, he can actually do a real decent amount of damage. Now his base damage is very much middle of the road, that comes in at a C. His speed again is very much middle of the road, that's 104, but at least it's not 100 like so many characters we've seen recently. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 character releases in a row or something like exactly 100 speed, so it's 104. Anyway, his focus is way up at an A, it's exceptionally high. That doesn't make sense to me at all because he has no part of his kit where he's applying debuffs, and he's also not doing cleanse or anything like that, so he's got really high focus but it's completely wasted on him there, so that is a bit odd. If we look at additional areas of his kit that can pull him up, you've got the fact that the vast majority of heroes in the game, probably about 99%, actually start off with 10% base crit rate. Killmonger actually starts off with 30% base crit rate, so that's really nice there. From the off, you get close to a 1 in 3 chance to crit. As part of his kit, he can also apply a fence up to himself, and when you run him in raids, he has a chance to counter attack, and the more Wakandan characters you have, that can actually increase there. Now that's his offensive stats. Let's have a look at his defensive stats next. When it comes to his survivability, he actually does really pretty decent here for a blaster class. His health is way up at B, so that's really nice. His armour is A, again that's great. Normally with a glass cannon type class you'll maybe have high health and low armour or vice versa, but he's actually got both of them high, so that really helps him out. His resistance is on the lower side, it's down at D, which means he will be susceptible to debuffs. Also from a defensive perspective, as part of his kit, he's got a huge amount of drain in it, and that's something we'll look at more when we get to the abilities, and he's actually got the opportunity to heal when he defeats an enemy as well, so that can be really powerful there. Now that's all the stats covered, let's have a look at his abilities next. We start off here with the passive for Killmonger, and this is really pretty decent, there's quite a lot in it. It's called Retribution, so with this, when he gets defense up on himself, you attack the most injured enemy for 330% damage, and that's really pretty awesome. Although one issue I've noticed with it, with the way Black Panther's set up at the moment, you want to get the killing blow on Black Panther to fill up his speed bar and then he can attack again. However, if you run Black Panther and Killmonger together, Killmonger steals the kills from Black Panther, meaning he can't charge himself up, so that is a bit of an issue there. You also have with this, on kill you heal for 10% of this character's max health, as well as the fact he has 20% drain on his attacks. And that's really nice because you play the likes of Drax, who has drain. If he defeats an enemy, he doesn't get any health back, whereas having this failsafe where you get 10% of health back on kill actually makes up for that, and I'm hoping they add that to other characters. With this as well, we've got, you gain 20% crit chance per charge. We'll look at that a bit more when we get to the other abilities, but with this you would only need 3 stacks of charge to get up to 90% due to his 30% base crit rate that he has. And then just to finish up with the passive, In raids, you have a 20% chance to counterattack. This is when you get defense up on yourself, and in raids you gain a plus 20% chance to add counterattack for each Wakandan ally. So if you're running with a full team of 4 other Wakandan characters, then when he gets defense up on him, you'll have that 100% chance to apply counterattack to himself there. So that's really pretty decent as well, and I will mention that when he does counterattack, his drain will also kick in, so that is included there. So that's a passive. In regards to how high to take it, the only difference between level 4 and 5 is 70% damage on the most injured enemy, and for that reason I would say hold off on this for now, but depending on how strong the Wakandan team is when they come out, you may want to upgrade it to 5, but for now just keep this at level 4. The next ability we have here is basic, and via this one you can actually regain a really pretty decent amount of health. Now this is called Focus Fire. With this you attack a primary target for 330% damage, and it also has 30% drain, and that doesn't include the 20% drain that comes from his passive. So in total, when you attack him with this, you're getting a whopping 50% drain on it. Now with this as well, on crit you'll bonus attack 2 times for 330% damage and 30% drain with that as well, and then you lose the charged. Also with this you'll gain 1 charged if you don't crit, and that gives you that additional 20% crit chance, and that goes up to a maximum of 5, which isn't really needed because if you think back to the stats, he has the 30% crit chance anyway, so 5 charges would give him 130% crit, which just doesn't really make any sense there. And it really ties in with the fact that I think Killmonger has been rushed out to fill the gap that Widowmaker, giving everyone Captain Marvel's actually made there. Now, in regards to this skill anyway, it's one that I would say you want to potentially use sometimes over the special if you need the health back, because it does give you an absolute ton of health, and even more so if it does crit. In regards to how high to take it, the upgrade from level 6 to level 7 is actually really pretty nice. It's 40% damage, it's an additional 10% drain, and it changes the bonus attack to go from 1 to 2 times to guaranteed to 2. The reason I'd probably say just stick at level 6 though is that the bonus attack being guaranteed for 2 times is only if you actually crit in the first instance, so there's a random chance to then get another random chance. So for that reason I would say just keep this one at level 6, but it is still a pretty decent skill. For the special we have a skill here called Full Auto, and it's got a very low free turns to actually charge, and it comes fully charged. In most instances, as long as you've not taken a lot of damage on the first turn, then you will want to use this to start off the fight. Now with this, when it's maxed out at level 7, you attack a primary target for 200% damage 3 times, so that would be 600% damage, but you do have to bear in mind that each attack, if the enemy has armour, because this isn't full piercing, the damage will be reduced on each of those attacks. Yes, that pulls it down a little bit there. With this as well, on crit you gain a fence up and you lose charge. Now because it's doing 3 attacks and your base crit chance is 30%, statistically the majority of the times you should be looking to actually gain a fence up in turn 1 if you actually fire this off. Also with this as well, like the basic before it, if you don't crit you'll gain 1 charged up to a maximum of 5 there. In regards to how high you want to take this, I would actually say it's worthwhile maxing out. The difference from level 6 to 7 is 40% damage on the primary attack, but because that's repeating 3 times, it's 120% damage. Yes, it is reduced by armour for each of the attacks. I don't know what the exact math would work out, I think it would vary depending on the character, but it's still a fair amount to actually gain. So this is one that I would say is worthwhile maxing out. Now next up anyway, let's have a look at the ultimate. The final ability we have here then is Battle Frenzy, the ultimate, and this is really pretty awesome. Now it's a total 6 turns to charge, and it comes with 4 charges, so you can use it on the second turn. With this you attack the primary target for 300% damage, and maxed out you chain to all adjacent targets for 240% damage, and bear in mind you'll be getting the drain on that. And also on crit you attack all enemies for an additional 200% damage, and then you lose charge. So the way it works is you'll do your chain. If you manage to crit, which there will be a very high chance due to the number of targets you're attacking and his high crit rate that he starts off with, then he throws out the mine that does the additional damage. So you could be looking at essentially up to 500% damage across all targets. really pretty awesome. Now with this, similar to the basic and the special, if you don't crit then you'll gain the charge as well here. One thing you have to watch out for with all melee chain attacks is counter attack will actually break the chain. When it comes to how high you want to actually go with this one, I would say you want to max it out for sure, because you gain additional damage to the primary target and to the chain, but the real big difference here is that if you don't have this maxed out, you only chain up to 5 targets. Now, Killmonger is a character that is set up for a raid team, and in raids very often you go up against 10 enemies at the same time, so you want to max it out so you'll chain to all those 10 enemies, but just be careful that none of them actually have counter attack to break the chain there. So that's all the abilities. Let's now have a look at the synergies. When it comes to characters he can work well with, he's actually a very flexible damage dealer, and he can fit into a real high number of teams. Now, if we were to look at specific synergies, however, firstly you will have the Wakandans, a tag that we only have Black Panther at the moment, but that's really going to expand in future and we'll get to see his true potential. Tying in with his passive and attacking the most injured target he can get when he gains defense up, you have Kingpin and Merc Riot Guard. The reason I'm including those two specifically is Kingpin will also add the offense up as well, so when he attacks the most injured target he has a fence up on him, and Merc Riot Guard, he can have as low as a 2-turn cooldown on his defense up, which is really pretty amazing. Now, another character that I don't think I've ever included in the allies section before is Bullseye. He will actually give additional crit damage to mercenary allies, and Killmonger has a mercenary tag and it ties in nice with his additional crit rate. You then have characters that can boost his crit rate even higher. I wouldn't say these are essential, but they could be fun to play around with. You have Iron Man, who would give him an additional 10% crit, and then you have Gamora, who would give him an additional 5% crit. So that's the characters that could be fun to play around with, but as mentioned, he's a very flexible character and he could fit into a lot of teams and fill the damage dealer role. Now, the next section we'll look at will be the characters you want to avoid. When it comes to characters you want to avoid here, firstly we have Punisher. Now, if any character has a villain tag, Punisher's one that you want to avoid because he does additional 50% damage to them and he can absolutely melt villains. You then have Daredevil. When you fully upgrade his basic, he does the 2 attacks guaranteed on villains, and also you have the fact that Daredevil running a defenders team can add the counter attack to everyone, so that will break the chain on your ultimate. The next set of characters are ones that have heal block, so that would stop the drain, and that's where a large part of his survivability comes from. So notable characters would be Venom, Mordo, and also Kree Reaper. Kree Reaper's in there specifically because with their upgrade they got recently, they actually had heal block for 2 turns, and that would really lock him down. You have Pyro, that via his passive with a Brotherhood team, when characters drop below 50% health, they'll get the heal block on them as well, so that can be pretty tricky. And then finally you have Drax there. So Drax starts off with the taunt, you have to attack him with the special. By the time your ultimate comes up on Killmonger, if Drax hasn't been dispelled, Drax will also have counter attack as well as that taunt, meaning you have to potentially waste the ultimate or save it for the next turn. So that's the characters you want to avoid anyway, so let's get to the section everyone's probably been waiting for, and this will be the tier list. Just before we place Killmonger in the tier list, then I'll run over some of his pros and cons first. So you have the fact that he is a very flexible damage dealer and he can fit into a high number of teams and really help out. You've got that awesome ultimate and the huge amount of health you can get back when you actually use it. He's only going to get better as time goes on as well, when the more Wakandan characters come out and you have synergies there. I've already touched on slightly, but I'll mention again the awesome drain you've got on all of his skills, and the fact that he also heals on kill as well, so he doesn't fall into that trap that Drax has when he defeats a character. You're not getting any health back, so it's really nice to see that. And then you've got that 30% base crit chance, so the 1 in 3 chance close enough to crit from the off is really pretty awesome. Now, when we look at his downsides, one of them that I did notice and I've already mentioned in the video is that you need to be careful about casting defense up on him if a character's low and you're running him with Black Panther, otherwise he steals Black Panther's kill and it means Black Panther can't charge himself up for a free turn. You have the fact that he may have quite a few attacks that do multiple hits, but because they're not piercing damage, armour takes effect for each of the hits that pulls down the damage a fair bit depending on how much armour the target actually has. And then finally you've got the fact he's really quite susceptible to heal block, because the majority of his survivability does come via the drain, so if you can get heal block on him then he could be in a lot of trouble there. But with all that in mind, I would actually place him at the moment as a low level alpha character. I think he fits quite well there with the rest of the characters in that particular setting. I've not added any additional synergies at the moment because I did talk about how he's got a nice synergy with Kingpin, but I don't feel that's enough to move him up to mid-alpha. And also in time with the Wakandans coming out, I'll very likely go back to this video and do a version 1.1 where we can then add a number for the actual synergies and how high it would pull him up. Hopefully it will pull him up to the likes of Omega. We'll need to really wait and see. But that's another in-depth review in the bag. I think that's over about 60 we've probably done now. So as always, let me know in the comments below if you've unlocked Killmonger, how you're finding him. Let me know what you think of the rating, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all again soon.